All right, what's going on, you guys? Welcome to today's SFS live stream. Same deal as usual. I'm just going to be answering you guys' questions and getting anything out there that you guys need for today and this week's fantasy playoff games. Sorry about this morning. I didn't get out a video. I got some pretty exciting news last night. I got into my top choice college, so I was just celebrating with some family and whatnot. So that's why I didn't get out a video for you guys this morning, but hoping to get out something for you guys tomorrow morning that I was looking to get out today. So with that being said, any of your guys' questions are welcome. I'm going to be kind of letting this go viewer guided and just doing anything you guys want me to talk about. So what's up, Lucas? What's up, Evan? Glad to have you guys on the stream. What's up, my man, CTZ013? What's going on, James? All right, James got a question here. In 2 leagues, he needs 1 flex, and they are so close in value in both of the leagues. In League 1, he's got Swift and Chris Carson. And in League 2, he's got Jacobs, Montgomery, Sanders, Swift, Carson, 1 PPR for both leagues. That's some pretty tough choices. Honestly, James, I know last week we were pretty concerned about DeAndre Swift and how he was going to be used in that game against the Packers coming off that concussion, because obviously we want him to be able to be healthy and not suffer a worse injury and make that concussion become more extensive. But I think this week he looked pretty good last week in the touches he did get. I believe he had 11 touches for 50 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown. So I think this week we'll see his looks go up in that game. And I think he has a pretty decent matchup. Detroit's playing Tennessee. You can run on the Titans. So I think I go with Swift there just because Chris Carson is playing a pretty tough front. The Washington football team is a very good defense. And then in your second league, I think that's another tough one. Josh Jacobs, I'm still a little bit leery about that ankle injury. I think although he's playing, I don't think he's at 100% right now. I mean, those things linger for a long time, and you can't just solve them in a couple weeks. So, and then I really like David Montgomery. He's on a hot streak right now. That's probably your safest bet considering what he's been able to do here on this last 2-3 game stretch that he's been on a tear. So, and then Miles Sanders, I've got some hope for him. I think he's certainly salvageable, but obviously a 1-game sample size of success is a little bit risky, so you have to manage that there. I believe your teams are pretty darn solid, so I think I go with Montgomery and just play it safe there. What's up, Adam? Glad I'm your favorite YouTuber. That means a lot. That's awesome, man. QB, you've got a tough decision, Cole, this week. Derek Carr, Rivers, or Hurts. I think I'd roll the dice here, honestly, and go with Jalen Hurts. I mean, Philly's got the Cardinals this week. That's a pretty average defense. I mean, they're going to bend. They don't break all the time and give up the touchdown. But for a guy like Jalen Hurts, who is going to run the football and get some added points in that fast of the game, I think Hurts is a really good choice there. Indy, though, let's just take a look at these other matchups. The Colts are having the Texans. I think T.Y. Hilton could have a big day in that one. But obviously, Phil Rivers is only going to give you that passing volume. He's not going to take off and run it whatsoever. And then Las Vegas has the Chargers. I'd be a little bit careful about that one just because the Chargers have been really struggling lately. Or excuse me, the Raiders have been really struggling lately. The Chargers have been too, but obviously Las Vegas is the better football team, I think. I think it's a matter of coaching for the Chargers because that is a very talented football team. Is Kenny Galladay droppable? Congrats on 1K. What's up, Christian? Glad to have you on the stream here. Thanks so much. 1K, it's been awesome. You guys have been a great fan base and support here, so really thankful for all of you guys. In terms of if Kenny Galladay is droppable, I think it really depends on the size of your league. If you're in a bit of a deeper league, I'd hang on to him, but if you're in like an 8-man or a 10-man, there's probably someone out there that can give you some higher value and give you some better lineup options, but Kenny Galladay, when he plays, is great. I mean, I'll look up right now and see if we've got any news out on his injury, but no practice today for Stafford or Galladay. He's been a big disappointment this year, a very big bust candidate, obviously. I think he was going in like the late second, early third rounds in some leagues. So, yeah, I would not be too excited about keeping him around, but if you're in a deeper league, you might be able to afford it. Cole says, after watching the Ravens and Browns game, how banged up do I think the Ravens defense is, and are they a start over the football team this week? So I think, honestly, I would go with the Washington defense over Baltimore, regardless of how injured or not they are. They just haven't been playing quite up to the level that they were at last season, and that's a group I think is really talented, but their secondary is hammered on the back end. Those guys are really, really dinged up. I mean, at the end of the game, they were down to like the bottom of their bench. They had a lot of backups in at the secondary, and they're not really getting a pass rush that we expected them to get this season. So, and along with that, their run stop hasn't been great. We saw Chubb and Hunt have a lot of success in that game. So even though the Seahawks are playing the football team this week, I think I'd go with them. They're going to get sacks and pressures on Russell Wilson, and he's been throwing picks lately. So I think that's a dependable unit. Thanks, Clayton, for saying congratulations. Yeah, Adam, let's go, baby. Thoughts on Michael Thomas and Amari this week? So Dallas has the Cowboys, have the 49ers. Not exactly a great matchup on paper. And then Michael Thomas and the Saints are playing the Chiefs. I think that the Chiefs are an underrated defensive unit, and I think that that's definitely a group that can play some tough defense, especially in the secondary when they know you're going to pass and try and keep up with Pat Mahomes. But Michael Thomas is that top dog in that Saints offense in the passing game, and Taysom Hill has been throwing him balls. So, I mean, I think that if that's a game that is high scoring, you want Michael Thomas in your lineup. Amari Cooper, those are two banged up teams in the 49ers and the Cowboys. And that could turn into a sloppy football game. So I think I'd feel much safer with Michael Thomas this week. Herbert or Jared Goff this week? That's actually a great question. I think that Herbert, we expect him to have a higher ceiling. Obviously, playing the Raiders is a super great matchup. But I think what this comes down to is if Keenan Allen plays or not. If Keenan Allen plays, it's an instant must-start for Herbert. Goff has a very solid matchup against the Jets as well. But who knows how many meaningful snaps of football we're going to get in that game if the Rams just rout them right off the bat. So if Allen plays, go Herbert. Otherwise, you can take a deeper look at that and consider Goff. T.Y. or Cooks this week. Honestly, I forget who Houston's playing. They're playing the Colts, right? Yeah, they're playing each other. I think with Cooks missing last week in the hot streak T.Y. Hilton's on right now, Riley, I think that you should go with T.Y. Hilton there. I mean, he's got 80-plus yards and a touchdown in 3 straight games. He's playing great right now. He finally looks healthy. There was something off about him back earlier on this season, but T.Y. looks to have returned to form. Him and Phil Rivers have a connection there. And against Houston, who throughout his entire career, he's basically owned. If you want to look at some T.Y. Hilton highlights, half of the highlights are against the Texans. So I would go that route. Thank you, Derek, for saying congrats, man. Thanks for coming on the stream. Brady wants to know about Trubisky or Derek Carr this week. I think that Trubisky against the Vikings, he's actually been playing decent lately. Those aren't two ideal quarterback spots. I don't know if you have a different option. I don't love either of those guys, but both of them have their intrigue. I mean, I could see the Raiders having a lot of points hung on their head by Justin Herbert in that offense, so I could see them pushing the pace and throwing the ball downfield and him having some value there. And then Trubisky has his legs, and I think a lot of people don't realize how much he scrambles. And at least gets outside of the pocket. So, I don't know. Minnesota's kind of playing some stingy defense right now. So, surprisingly to that fact, I did not think they'd hold up that well against Tampa last week. But maybe go Derek Carr that route. I just can't really bring myself to trust Trubisky too much. And is this playoff format normal? Plays 2 rounds against the same person, points add up, and the winner of both 2 weeks goes to the championship. Beckett, that is not the normal format. I have definitely seen that format before, and I've actually played in a league like this. So what happens is instead of having like a 6 or an 8-team bracket, you just start with 4, I believe, and you play the same person 2 weeks, and it's the collective points that goes on to the championship. I personally don't like those as much. I would rather have a 6-team bracket. That's my favorite style of fantasy football championships. I like to have a 6-team bracket where you send the first and second seed or the conference champion in the 2 divisions to a bye week, and then the other 4 played out in like your wild card type round. That's the style that I typically play, but I've also been in some 8-team leagues in deeper 12 to 14-man leagues where you play 8-team bracket, and that's pretty fun as well. Maybe even you can sprinkle in there, the NFL right now is doing 7 playoff teams per conference. You could even do a 7-man bracket where the 1 seed gets the bye, but it's really all up to your commissioner. What college did I get into? I got into UW-Madison. That's where I was looking at getting into. Rank these running backs: Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones, Kenyon Drake, or J.K. Dobbins. For this week, I think that's tough. I think the top of the list is the hard part to decipher between. I really like Aaron Jones. He hasn't been quite getting those touchdowns that we're accustomed to seeing him get here. Obviously, you can see in the background I'm a Packer fan, but I try to stay pretty level-headed here when talking about Green Bay and look at it from a holistic perspective and take into consideration the pros and the cons. And I think Aaron Jones, he's still a good running back. He's an efficient player, but he's not getting the touchdowns he did last season, so his ceiling is down a bit right now unless he springs a big run. Kenyon Drake's been playing some pretty dang good football, and I think against the Jets he could see a lot. Or sorry, wow, that was not the right team. Against the Eagles, rather. Good Lord. I think he could have probably some touchdowns with Kyler Murray not taking as many running attempts on the goal line. We've seen Drake find the end zone a lot more lately, so I like him as well. And then Jacobs would be probably the top guy on this list for me had he not had that ankle injury, which I think is actually quite a big issue right now, and is probably limiting his explosiveness. So I think at the top, I'd still probably go Aaron Jones. And then, honestly, in standard and PPR leagues, I'd say Drake and Jacobs are just about even. J.K. Dobbins, I think, is really, really talented, really explosive, but the amount of rushing attempts Lamar Jackson takes away is a big factor in that. Herbert, Watson, or Tannehill. I think this week, that's a tough one, too. Those are three really good quarterbacks, Jack. And I think all guys in my top 12 right now. I believe I had Tannehill around 10 last week, and then Herbert and Watson were in like my top 6. So Herbert, I think maybe if Allen plays against the Raiders, gets the 1 for me this week. Against the Colts, we saw Watson have a lot of yards the last time around, but not too many touchdowns. I think he landed 1. So I'd probably go Herbert, then Tannehill, then Watson, honestly. I think Tannehill could be in for a big day. Derrick Henry's running so good right now. The play action ball is insane. He's got wide open guys. A.J. Brown's a beast, so I don't really think the limited passing volume matters there much right now in Tennessee. Tannehill's still going to get his numbers. Derrick needs 1 quarterback, 1 receiver, a tight end, and 1 in the flex. He's got Phillip Rivers, Kyler Murray, Deontay Johnson, Kelvin Ridley, Terry McLaurin, Cam Akers, Josh Jacobs, Jonnu Smith, Logan Thomas, and Irv Smith. So your tight end, we'll start from the bottom here. I think I would probably go with... Honestly, I could see you streaming Logan Thomas against the Seahawks. Jonnu Smith's got the Lions. I mean, the Lions have been giving up touchdowns to tight ends. I think you either go Jonnu or Logan Thomas there. Logan Thomas had a tough matchup against the 49ers last week. But he was still able to have 7 points in half PPR, which is pretty impressive, honestly, considering Fred Warner is the guy covering him there. So maybe I'd go stream Logan Thomas there. Your flex, I would think I would definitely consider Cam Akers for that spot. But since you have so many great wide receiver options, I think that makes things a bit tougher as well. And I think I would honestly go Calvin Ridley or Terry McLaurin. I think Ridley might be the safer option, considering Terry McLaurin's been trending down lately. But yeah, you got a lot of good options here, man. I think I'd probably go Calvin Ridley in that spot, and then maybe Cam Akers at your flex. And then for quarterback, I still think you go with Kyler Murray over Phillip Rivers. Murray, I was really worried about with that shoulder injury, but he actually showed the willingness to use his legs a bit more in that past game, and that really helped his production. So Kyler Murray, I'm back on. Not quite as high as he would be if he was 100% healthy and playing his entire game style to the best of his ability, but he has definitely shown that he can overcome the injury, and in terms of fantasy, if he doesn't have a terrible matchup, he's still a starting level player. Amari Cooper or T. Higgins this week in PPR. The Bengals have the Steelers, and the Cowboys have the 49ers. I still think that without Joe Burrow, you can't really trust those Bengals wide receivers week to week, so I'm going to go with Amari Cooper there. It's not really a great situation, but Hayden is wondering about Lynn Bowden or Gus Edwards. Hayden, man, do you have to start either of these players? There's not the best options in the world. Gus Edwards did fall in the end zone twice, though, against the Browns on Monday night. So I think that's a legitimate option to go with. Lynn Bowden's a rookie, and I wouldn't bet too much on his production. Let's see what Lynn Bowden's been up to lately, because I haven't really been paying too much attention to him throughout this season. He only had 1 rushing attempt against the Chiefs, but he did have 7 catches for 82 yards and his usage really just went up the last couple weeks here. I still think you go with Gus Edwards, though. He's definitely the more established player at this point. So maybe Lynn Bowden's a stash away type play, but not a guy I'd be super excited about. If you've got him in Dynasty, maybe then that's a bit of a different scenario. But in terms of a redraft league, especially unless you're in like a 14-man league, I think that might be tough to carry him. Terry, T.Y. Gallman at flex. Jasper, that's a great question. I think this week you've got yourself some good options there. I really like Wayne Gallman's floor, and he had one of his worst games in the last, 7 or 8 game stretch in week 14, but still a nice floor, like I said. T.Y. Hilton's been on fire lately. He's got three games of 80-plus yards and a touchdown, I believe. And then Terry McLaurin, I love his matchup against the oh, man, I just got scrolled down. Terry McLaurin against the Seahawks, though. I like that matchup. I think if you're willing to roll the dice and bet on Terry to get back on track, I think that's the way to go. But I think that if you want to play it more safe, T.Y. Hilton's been great against the Texans in his career, and he's riding a hot hand right now. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. Will the Bears win out and somehow make the playoffs? Let's take a look at Chicago's schedule here. That's an interesting one. As a Packer fan, I wouldn't mind seeing them in the playoffs because I don't think they'll go anywhere and they'll just move their draft pick down even farther. I think Eric, you would rather have your Bears lose and get one of those mid first round quarterbacks. So they've got the Jags after Christmas, and then they've got the Vikings and Green Bay. As a Packer fan, I don't want to say that you're going to win out and beat my Packers, but you could certainly beat Minnesota this week and Jacksonville and get into the hunt somehow. You're third in the North right now, but you could overtake Minnesota here with a couple of wins. So anything's possible, I guess. Pick 2, Aaron Jones, JT, Akers, and Swift. You've got yourself Spencer Malinowski. You've got yourself 2 really, really great options here you're going to have to pick from. The 4 guys that you listed are very solid. JT for me, though, this week, him and Akers, I think, are must-start players. Aaron Jones, I have a hard time sitting down, but I think against the Titans, we've seen his touchdown count is down this year. It was high earlier on, but he's kind of slowed down a bit. I think you got to start JT, and I really want to start Cam Akers because I love his ceiling this week. I think it's a really hard and ballsy thing to do to sit down Aaron Jones, but I could see there being a valid argument to sit him for one of those other 2 guys, Akers or Swift, but it's got to be JT and one of the other 3. JT's matchup is just too good to pass on. What about Stafford's health? James Stafford was not at practice today. He's been banged up this year. In the last couple of years, it's becoming a bit of an issue. So definitely something to keep in mind there. I think that ultimately he's a gamer, and I think he'll play. He got banged up at the end of the Packer game. He got kind of sandwiched near the red zone at the end of the game. Darrell Bevel, his coach, says he's comfortable without Stafford practicing this week. So, and if he says he can still play without practice. So I think that Stafford will probably end up playing, but definitely something that could limit his ability to get in and out of the pocket. McLaurin, Hilton, Deontay Johnson, Miles Sanders, or DJ Moore at flex. Man, you guys have some really deep leagues here and a lot of things to pick from. I think I'd go with McLaurin or Hilton, though. I mean, Deontay Johnson kind of got his snaps taken away from him mid-game last week because of some drops. Miles Sanders is trending up right now, but still not an instant must-start trustworthy guy. And then Terry McLaurin, he's had his down weeks here, but I think I might go roll the dice with McLaurin in my flex. I had the situation with another question here a couple minutes ago. McLaurin and Hilton, I would value both as high-end options this week and some players that can have some really big games. Derek Rivers or Herbert, I think I'll go with Herbert here against the Raiders as long as Keenan Allen plays. I think that's a great way to go. Should you trust Julio Jones or play someone like Aguilar? I actually think Julio Jones might not play this week. His head coach, the interim coach, Raheem Morris, I believe, considered saying that they might shut him down. And right now, as of an hour ago, he's week to week for the rest of the season. So I think for now, you have to prepare to start someone like Aguilar. I mean, Aguilar has a big ceiling in that Raiders offense, but also a low floor. So kind of a dicey play there, but it could work out nice. Start 2, JT, Chubb, or Eckler. those are three really good options again as well. I think you got to start Austin Eckler against the Raiders. He's so dynamic as a receiver and as a runner that you have to start him, especially in PPR leagues. And then Cleveland, the Browns, and Nick Chubb have the Giants this week. As much as I love JT, I don't quite think you can sit Nick Chubb for him. I think JT's got a great matchup. He's super talented, but you can't sit Chubb down. What's up, Matthew? He's got Hurts, Tannehill in a 4-point pass touchdown league. PPR, you advanced but have trash running backs. You got Mostert and picked up Wilson. Play a Niner and Hines or play Bowden, who has running back eligibility. Okay, so I think that if you really need a high upside this week to pick up the slack for your running backs, then I think it's very valid to go with Jalen Hurts. I think the rushing value is really great for him there, and against the Cardinals, an average defense, I think he can take advantage of that. We see Tannehill run here and there, but it's not exactly like the basis of his game. Mostert is actually getting imaging done on his ankle. Let's check in on Mostert's injury right now, see if he practiced today. 49ers running back getting ankle checked. Yeah, so right now we still don't have any input on him. So I think that Jeff Wilson, if you're able to stream him, could be a very, very nice pickup this week. And then I like Nyheim Hines in PPR leagues, which your league is. His point spectrum is like this. He's either going to get you like, 8 points in PPR, like a solid 5 catches and like 40 yards from scrimmage, or he's going to just break away and score a huge receiving touchdown. He's a little guy, slippery, really hard to tackle. He's got a super high ceiling, so there are some really good ceiling play options for you here, Matthew, even if your team is looking a little rough right now. Woods are TY this week. I think Derek, it depends on if you're looking for a floor play or a ceiling play. I think T.Y. Hilton is certainly the riskier option of the two, but has the higher ceiling, whereas Robert Woods, we know he's going to get his looks. Last week was just a down week because he played Stephon Gilmore in New England. That's a tough matchup for any wide receiver. And I think that despite the fact that the Rams might blow the Jets out of the water, Woods is still going to have a nice day. So ceiling or floor play, whatever you're looking for. Woods is that floor play, and T.Y. is the ceiling play. Jack, I think you asked this question earlier, but I'll say it again. Herbert, Watson, or Tannehill, I ranked them. Herbert as my top option for this week if Keenan Allen plays, and then Tannehill slightly over Watson because Watson struggled to get in the end zone last time. Alex just wants to say thanks for all the advice, and now he's headed into the second round of his playoffs. You're welcome, man. I'm glad to have you on the channel. Thanks so much for stopping around here on the stream today. I hope the best for you this week. If you got any questions, drop those down below, and I'll be happy to help you try and move on once again. What's up, Roy Kim? Glad you stopped by the stream, man. You dropped Kareem Hunt last week, and regret it big time. Yeah, he played great. Huge game for him. I think the game script is really what has the biggest impact on Kareem Hunt. I mean, he's not the most consistent guy in the world, and it's really those games when the Browns defense gets torched and Baker needs to pass the ball that he turns into a really elite fantasy weapon. So that's what's up with him. And then you really like the new background. So I actually moved my studio. I'm in a new room right now, so I was able to get some framed pictures up there. And then I've got a football, Packer hat, and then if I move over here, you can see I've got an autographed football and my helmet. So this week, Ethan, don't want to skip you, man. Hey, man, just came here to say that you've helped me in my fantasy. So now you are the #1 seed, and I am your favorite fantasy YouTuber. Keep up the good work. Thanks so much, man. Really appreciate you. Glad you stopped on the stream here, and good luck here in the playoffs. I hope you can go out there and get that championship. That's awesome that you've been so successful this season. So glad to hear that. Jose is wondering about Ayuk or Michael Thomas this week, leaning towards Ayuk, but you don't know. If you have an open flex spot, man, I think that Ayuk is a great option. I think he's a bit more risky, obviously being a rookie and being in an offense right now with some inconsistent play. But Michael Thomas, I think, is your floor play this week. But against Dallas, Ayuk has a huge ceiling. So if you can afford to take the gamble on Ayuk, I really like going that route because he's had, I believe, 5 straight games of 75-plus yards. I just talked about him the other day in my video in my top 24 wide receiver rankings. So in the last 5 games Brandon Ayuk has played, 8 for 91 in a score, 7 for 75 in a score, 6 for 115, 9 for 95 in a score, and 10 for 119. Dallas is by far the easiest secondary he's played on that list. Great opportunity for him there. I think that you could really justify going that route, to be honest. Tanyan or Goddard this week, PPR. I think that Tanyan, he's second in touchdowns right now behind Travis Kelce. 9 touchdowns on the year. He's been exceptional and heavily slept on still to this point. I would go with Tanyan. Even though Hurts showed some life for that offense last week, I think Tanyan is just a tick higher for him just because that touchdown upside. Gallman for your flex. I think Wayne Gallman's a solid flex if that's the route you want to go there. Baker or Russ in week 16. I think Russ has the Rams if I remember off the top of my head, but I'll look it up just to fact check myself here. It's kind of tough to remember all these schedules off the top of my head. Yep. Russ has the Rams week 16. That is not a matchup I like very much. Baker is absolutely on fire right now, and he's got the Jets. I can see you doing it, man. That's a legitimate concern. I think, Ben, if you're looking to go for Baker Mayfield, I can't fault you with Aaron Donald. That Rams defense matches up really well against the Seattle offense, and they have actually whooped up on them in the last 4 or so years here and won a lot of games in that rivalry. So. And then with Metcalf, the last time around, Russ didn't even look his way when Ramsey was covering him. So that's a legitimate option for your team. Godwin or Anderson or Akers at your flex. Chris Godwin, I really like him in his upside, but he is just not showing me that safe floor that on paper, everything's there. Tampa Bay has a great schedule here down the stretch. Godwin is so talented. Obviously, everyone who played fantasy last year remembers what he did with Jameis. That offense just does not look the same under Brady. And I don't even think it's really Tom's fault necessarily. I'm not even like a super big Tom Brady guy, but I don't know. Something's just not clicking there, and that's a big concern. Anderson against the Packers. I think he has a high ceiling, but if Jair gets a hold of him and he locks him up, he could have a quiet day. But it depends on if he shadows DJ Moore, if he plays or not. So we'll see that. I think Akers is your safest bet here. Cam Akers has a really great matchup. It is on fire lately. Packers, Chicago, or Bills defense this week. And also Ingram or Goddard. So the Giants are playing the Browns. Browns are awful against the tight end, so I think you should probably go Evan Ingram there, despite how much I like Dallas Goedert. Chicago this week has Minnesota. The Bills are playing. Who does Buffalo have here this week? They've got the Broncos. I think you go with Buffalo. I know Green Bay obviously has the Panthers. I think you go with Buffalo. Drew Lock turns the football over. He just had his huge. On the Drew Lock scale here, we're right here. That's where he has a massive game, and we're going to go right back down here to the Jay Cutler-esque high interception games. He's literally a baby Jay Cutler. He just throws picks. Huge arm. He's got the talent. He just needs a little bit more poise and control. But you've got the Ravens defense, and the Washington D is on the waivers. You have Titans, Cardinals, Vikings, Bears, Chiefs, and Giants. Oh, and in the waivers. Okay, yeah, Alex, I think you go with the Washington football team defense here. Yeah, I think they're going to get the most opportunity even in a tough matchup because that front seven is really good. I get Taysom, so Taysom Hill, Carr, or Trubisky. So Brady, obviously Taysom Hill, we don't know who the starter is going to be yet. I'll look into Drew Brees right now and see what his practice status was today. He doesn't have a timetable right now, and that's kind of what they're doing. They're not rushing him back. I could see Taysom Hill playing this game, and if he's able to do so, you pick Taysom Hill over those two options, but otherwise I'd go Carr over Trubisky. And then Reflect, thank you so much, man. Donated to the channel here. I really appreciate that, man. He's got a question. He wants to know if he should start Kyler Murray or Tannehill with A.J. Brown stack. I really like Ryan Tannehill this week. The Cardinals are playing the Eagles, but I don't know. That's a tough one. I think that Tannehill AJ Brown stack could work out really nicely in your favor, but against the Lions this week, I think Derrick Henry has a huge game, and I think Tannehill's volume is even more limited than we've seen here lately. And while I still think AJ Brown is going to have a big day, I don't necessarily think the rest of those Tennessee pass catchers will. So I think you go with Kyler Murray and A.J. Brown as a starter, but I think we leave Tannehill slightly out of it. I really like him as a floor play, and I've actually advised that some people go with Tannehill this week in their lineups, but with Murray, I think the upside is too good to pass on there. Thank you so much, man, for the donation. I really appreciate it. You guys don't have to do that, but I'm super thankful for anything you guys toss out there. You don't have to donate to have your questions answered. I'm more than happy to answer you guys' stuff for free right now. But yeah, all of you guys are appreciated. And then I actually just lost my spot. So here we go. You got 2 questions, T. Higgins or Corey Davis, and also Irv Smith or Noah Fant. Okay, so I think you go Corey Davis this week. I trust Tannehill more. I think they're both shaky floor plays, but I think the higher ceiling is with Corey Davis right now because Tannehill is a quarterback I trust more than the Bengals right now. I just don't trust really anybody in that offense without Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon out there. So I think you have to go with Corey Davis there if that's your situation. And then Irv Smith or Noah Fant. Both of them have been kind of streaky, inconsistent players. Noah Fant's not even an issue of his play, but more of an injury thing. He gets banged up a lot and leaves football games. 0 catches in that game against the Panthers. And then Irv Smith, and they've got the Bears this week. That can actually be a bit tough with Roquan Smith, the inside linebacker for that team. But he played well against Tampa Bay. I still think I'd go with Noah Fant, though. 1 game sample size. We're still going to see Kyle Rudolph there getting some reps. So no problem, Paul. Thanks for stopping around the stream here. Glad to have you on the channel. I see you commenting all the time. Try to get back to you as much as I can. Derek is at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. They've got a pretty darn good football program up there. That's a dang good football team. Eckler or Kamara. In terms of this week, New Orleans has the Chiefs and Eckler has the Raiders. Both I think are actually really advantageous matchups. I think Kamara is going to catch a lot of passes out of the backfield with Taysom Hill or Drew Brees at quarterback. I think he's going to have a really great game. And then Eckler against the Raiders is fantastic. I don't know. That's a tough choice, man. I think I'm going to go with Kamara by a slight hair just because of the pedigree. I think he's slightly more talented. But both of these guys are in for big games this week, I think. Wilson if Mostert doesn't play, or Gus. I think you go Wilson 100% if Mostert is not on the field. That's just a really, really good situation. When the 49ers backfield gets narrowed in, and they get left with just a couple of options, that's when it's at its best. Don't you feel Stafford's health of not playing will affect Swift and Tannehill outcome in points? So if Matt Stafford doesn't play and they're left to resort to Chase Daniel, who I still think he's probably one of the higher upside backups in the league, I think it will affect what we're going to end up seeing from Swift and Tannehill, I guess, in the sense that the Lions might not be in the football game as long. It might not be as competitive, but like I said, Darrell Bevell expects that he can roll Stafford out there this week, even if he doesn't practice at all. I think that Stafford, if he ends up suiting up on the field, I think that actually helps Swift because in a week where he's not practicing because of injuries, I think he'd be more prone to checking down to the running back. But Tannehill, nonetheless, I think they're still, regardless of who's at quarterback for that team, ground and pound, play action pass. And when come game time, I guess we'll have to take a deeper look at that and decide, is Stafford playing or not, and how does that impact the rest of that game. But for now, Stafford's a gamer. I know being a Green Bay fan and having him in the division here for so long, he wants to play. He's a tough guy, and I expect that he'll be out there on Sunday. I'd be pretty surprised if he doesn't play. Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, Montgomery, JT, PPR pick 3. David Montgomery must start for me this week. JT must start for me. I love both of those players, both riding hot streaks right now. And then DeAndre Swift, still getting eased back into that offense. I love his ceiling, but the floor is not quite as good as normal, so I'll have to take Aaron Jones in that last spot. Full PPR pick 2, Dobbins, Godwin, Deontay Johnson, Wilson, or Hilton. I think I'd have to go with Godwin here this week. Against the Falcons, I think that Tampa Bay, this is kind of the make or break game for me. If they can't produce against Atlanta's secondary, I'm out on those players. And then in that last spot, I could see going Hilton or Johnson. Deontay Johnson gets peppered with targets, but obviously if he gets off to a slow start, we might be looking at some limited snaps there. I might go T.Y. Hilton in that other spot. Great matchup against Houston. Start 3 standard scoring, David Montgomery, Mike Davis, Jacobs, Jeff Wilson, and Antonio Gibson if he plays. I don't expect Gibson to play turf toe is pretty nasty, and even if he does, I think he's going to see limited touches. So I go Montgomery, Jacobs, and Davis this week. CMC is also not likely to play. So Alfredo lost Stafford and Dak in a 16-man league. If you have to pick a quarterback for week 15, who would you pick? Mullins, Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, or Gardner Minshew, man? I feel your pain, Alfredo. I've lost Dak Prescott in so many leagues this year. He was kind of my mid-round flyer pick that I was looking to go after, and he was playing excellent that first month of the season. Obviously, if Stafford doesn't play this week, that's a huge hit for you. So, obviously, we need to find you a better opportunity this week. I think Daniel Jones, if he is looking good in practice and stuff, I think we end up going with him against the Browns. I mean, we just saw Lamar on that offense torch that defense, and a lot of other guys have this season. So, I think Daniel Jones is a solid option there. Oh, wait. Hold up. I just caught myself here. As I was scrolling down, I see there's an S. So you were actually referring to Chase Daniels, not Daniel Jones at all. So let me reassess myself here. Broncos at Bills. Bills played some stingy defense against Pittsburgh last week. And I think Drew Lock might have some turnovers in that game. Jacksonville and Gardner Minshew, who is probably going to be the starter this week because we saw the other quarterback get pulled. Who do the Jags have this week? The Ravens. That's another tough one. That defense is battered right now, so I could see you going out there and starting Gardner Minshew. I think that might be your best bet here. And especially if they can get the ground game going with James Robinson. I really like that matchup. For my flex, should I start Kareem Hunt, Devontae Parker, or J.D. McKissick? I think this week, honestly, I'd end up going with Hunt. Coming off a big game, maybe he'll see some more involvement. Obviously, the talent is there, and all they really need is to give him some passes out of the backfield, and he's in for a nice day. So if you're in it's not a PPR league, but I still think he can rack up those catches and get you those scrimmage yards after the catch and maybe find the end zone. Pick 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and 1 flex out of Deontay Johnson, Amari Cooper, Robbie Anderson, and Corey Davis with Miles Sanders, Eckler, Hilaire, Ballage as a handcuff with Eckler questionable. So Eckler plays. I think I'd expect him to be out there. He's a must-start for me. I think you go Miles Sanders against that Cardinals team and hope him and Jalen Hurts can keep that run game going. And then at your wide receivers, I'd probably go Robbie Anderson, and for the last spot, probably Deontay Johnson against the Bengals. I like that matchup as well. Do you need a flex? You do need a flex as well. I would look at. This is a tough one for your flex, but I think I might. Okay, so I already picked 2 of your 4 wide receivers. I think I might go Amari Cooper and just hope that he can hit this week and have a big game. San Fran, it's a hit or miss. Both teams are pretty injured. But Cooper's pretty darn talented, so he just needs to break one. Philadelphia, Los Angeles, Miami at Houston, Week 16. Is this a defensive question for who to start in Week 16 for your defense? That's a tough one. I don't have these looking a week in advance. I don't have the schedules off the top of my head. Philly, though, they've got Dallas. Dallas might be a really great matchup that week. Houston's defense has been getting scorched, but Miami is a pretty darn good group as well. I think if you have the Dolphins' defense, you're riding pretty strong into the playoffs here. 4 takeaways against the Pat Mahomes offense last week is great for that team. So, and then against the Raiders, who have been struggling lately, I think you might go Miami or Philly there. Non-PPR, T.Y. Hilton, Robbie Anderson, Godwin, Swift, or Gallman. I really like a lot of these options. A lot of them have good matchups. I think since it's non-PPR, maybe we can go with Hilton here and just hope he blows a couple off the top of that Houston defense. Otherwise, I think that you might go pretty darn good with Wayne Gallman against the Browns this week. So either of those matchups, I think with the running back position, Gallman might get a slight bump and be a safer play there. Should you start Miami or 49ers defense this week? With the 49ers playing the Cowboys, I mean, they always have the opportunity to just completely shut that team down. And then the Dolphins this week are playing. Who does Miami have? The Patriots. I think that these are both good matchups for the defensive side of the ball, but I'd go Miami against Cam Newton. I mean, they just can't throw the ball right now, and he throws picks left and right. And that team, obviously, Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, they've got some ball hawks back there and some pass rushers. Can I pick 2 out of Miles Sanders, Adam Thielen, David Montgomery, and Cam Akers? Yes, absolutely. I think I go, honestly, I think I'm going to go with Cam Akers and David Montgomery here as your safest plays. Like I've been saying, I love Miles Sanders. I've been on him all season long, but he's just a bit more risky. I really, really hope that he can get back on track and show us a second straight game of high-end production with Jalen Hurts at the helm. But right now, Akers and Montgomery are those proven guys who the last 3 weeks have been getting the job done, so I'd go there. Evan Ingram or Logan Thomas, non-PPR. I think these are both good options this week, but Evan Ingram has the Browns, and they're one of the worst teams against the tight end in fantasy football, so I'd go that route. Any news on Myles Gaskin? If he doesn't play, would you put Lynn Bowden in as an option? He's been lining up at slot and led the Finns in routes ran and targets last week against the Chiefs. Great question, Colton. I think that Lynn Bowden, obviously for a guy who has running back eligibility in lineups, gives you a little bit of an advantageous role here, especially in PPR leagues. And for a Dolphins team that's pretty thin at wide receiver too, I don't think they exactly have the most talented group there. If you're looking at a PPR league, I might go out and give him a chance. But I think if Myles Gaskin, let's see, we probably won't know until game day, honestly, or the day before, if he's going to be eligible to come back off of that COVID list. But if he plays, I think Myles Gaskin is a start for me this week. But Lynn Bowden is a decent flex option in his absence. Need your opinion, standard league, for your wide receiver 2. You've got Cooper Kupp, not feeling great about his play. You've got DJ Moore, or can you go to the waiver wires? And my thoughts on that, I don't know. I think Kupp can have a nice game against the Jets. Obviously, there is that concern this week, though. How many meaningful snaps of football are the Rams going to take offensively with the Jets on the other side of the ball? So I think there's some reason to be hesitant there. And then with DJ Moore, I don't know if Jair Alexander for the Packers, who's a very top-end corner, is going to end up shadowing him or Cooper Kupp, or Robbie Anderson. So I think that's a bit of a dicey play there. I would honestly probably go with Kupp, especially with DJ Moore coming off the COVID list and not playing this week. You've got Landry, McLaurin, Lockett, Davis, and you've got 2 wide receiver spots. What do I advise for your lineup this week? I think McLaurin against Seattle, a high-risk, high-reward play right now. McLaurin was looking like a must-start player until the last couple weeks here with some quarterback play just being shuffled through rapidly. Smith gets banged up. Haskin comes back in. Then we see Smith again. It's just kind of a revolving door there. So I think you go McLaurin, though, against Seattle. There's some opportunities for a highly talented wide receiver to produce. And then Landry against the Giants is okay. I think I'd probably go... I don't know. Lockett's been boom bust too. And against Washington, I have my worries about him, especially for a guy who only has 2 games that have really been exceptional in his last 8. So I think you might go McLaurin and Landry here, pair some nice floor with some ceiling there. I really like Lockett, but if you roll the dice on him and McLaurin, you could really get left high and dry there. Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for tuning into the channel. The Can Man. Appreciate you stopping by on the stream here and leaving a question. Jalen Hurts or... Oops, scroll back down again. Every once in a while when you guys just put out a bunch of questions, it just scrolls me to the bottom of the list. I have to find my place. Jalen Hurts or Justin Herbert this week? I think I would ultimately go with Herbert if Keenan Allen plays. Otherwise, Hurts has that rushing volume. Great option there as a second choice. Ridley, Woods, Jefferson, or Hopkins this week? I think you got to go back to Hopkins. I mean, he was great in the last 2 games when Kyler Murray was still dealing with that shoulder, and I think that's still going to be a factor in this game. But the one thing we know is that Hopkins is not going to stop getting those looks. Lockett, Kupp, or Ayuk at flex. I'm going to go with Ayuk here against Dallas. Great upside this week. Excellent ceiling for Ayuk. He's been playing really good the last 5 games he's been eligible for, too. Big Ben or Tannehill? This is a tough one, too. I think Big Ben, that Steelers offense, they've lost 2 straight now. I think they get back on track against Cincinnati. Not a good football team. I think they put up a lot of points and kind of flex their muscles, but probably still aren't as good as we thought when they were 11-0. I'd probably go that route, though. The matchup is really easy. Tannehill's a solid start as well, but I think I'd give Big Ben by a hair. Who should you sit? Okay, so you need one sit out of Miles Sanders, DeAndre Swift, and Cam Akers. I think I'd honestly sit DeAndre Swift. I really like him this week, but obviously these teams that are left here and on the stream right now, pretty darn good teams, and that makes sense because if you're this far in the fantasy playoffs, you've got yourself some nice options. So I think you sit DeAndre Swift. Like I said, really like him. Miles Sanders, I think, is getting back on track, and we'll see more looks in that game. Cam Akers, I really love this week. I think he'll get a high amount of upside and touches in that offense against the Jets. Swift, I could see having a really big ceiling, like I said, this week, but limited touches last week coming off an injury. If Kittle comes back this week or next, could I consider starting him over Tanyan? If he comes back this week, I would wait on him this game, but then I would say you can give him the nod in the second game if he produces in the first. For a guy coming off the IR who's missed such significant time, you got to factor that into your playing time a little bit in your fantasy lineups because they're not going to come back and go from 0 to 100 instantly. So, and especially for guys valuable to that franchise as Kittle is, they're going to use him sparingly and make sure he's good to go. So I'd be safe about that one. Alpha eBear wants to know Akers, Sanders, Mostert. Please pick two. I'll go with, or Dobbins. I'll go with Akers and Sanders though. Mostert, that 49ers backfield has not been great the last couple of weeks. And Dobbins, I like as a middle of the pack RB2 to a high end RB2, but the touches are taken away from Lamar there. J.K. Dobbins or Kenyon Drake, full PPR, running back 2 from Brandon. Thank you so much, man, for the donation. Really appreciate you, my guy. So you're wondering J.K. Dobbins or Kenyon Drake at your running back 2 spot, and then Goddard or Hunter Henry. I think you end up going here at your running back spot with Kenyon Drake. And the Cardinals lately have not been running the ball on the goal line as much with Kyler Murray. So I think that has ultimately spiked Drake's touchdown production the last couple weeks here. I really like what he's been doing there. So I'm going to go with Drake by a slim margin there. And then Goddard or Hunter Henry. I think Hunter Henry could have a really nice game against the Raiders, but Goddard could as well against the Cardinals. So ultimately, I think Goddard is more involved in that offense in a higher part of that Eagles receiving game, so I might go that route. But if Keenan Allen doesn't play, Hunter Henry might see some more volume and might be more involved from Justin Herbert. But yeah, all in all, I think I'd go Drake and Goddard there. You need to start a wide receiver. Ayuk, Godwin, McLaurin, and Jefferson. You need to start 2. Okay. Jefferson played pretty darn good against the Bears last time. I think he had 8 for 135. McLaurin's got his risks. Godwin, great matchup, but Tampa Bay has not been producing at the level I hoped for this season. And then Ayuk has a massive ceiling. I think it's hard for me to keep Ayuk out of those top 2 for me. But I can also see where you might want to start those other 3 really good guys. I don't know. You got to find a good balance here between ceiling and floor, managing your risks and your rewards. My gut tells me to go with Godwin because I think he's going to get a lot of receptions and a lot of targets in that game. But he hasn't been quite producing great lately. McLaurin, 2 duds in a row. Jefferson, a quiet game last week. So I think I got to give one of these spots to Ayuk this week. The matchup is too good to pass on. And I think ultimately maybe whatever your gut tells you to go with at that second spot. But I think Godwin against the Falcons should get the job done. Chris Carson or Cam Akers and whoever remains, them or Michael Thomas at your flex. I'd go on and start Cam Akers at your running back 2 spot, Carlos, and flex Michael Thomas. I think MT, pretty safe floor. Cam Akers, really high ceiling this week, so perfect combo there. Pick one wide receiver in standard leagues. You've got Corey Davis, Aguilar, and Hilton. I'm going to go with T.Y. Hilton this week. Huge ceiling against the Texans. He's been great against them in his career. Is Austin Eckler playing this week? Obviously playing a Thursday night game. The turnaround from his last performance is limited, but Eckler was upgraded. He was limited on Tuesday. So yesterday he was limited in practice. No reports out from today's practice, but at least he was involved and on the field. So I think it looks pretty good. I think he'll play, but who knows? You got to wait till game time to figure that out. If Alex Smith does not play, I'm not too comfortable starting McLaurin, especially after the last few weeks. So do I flex Wilson against Dallas? If this is non-PPR, I think you consider this. But the thing I have to say about McLaurin is, as a rookie, Terry was excellent with Dwayne Haskins at quarterback. Those guys go way back, Jose. So, I mean, they played together at Ohio State in college, and those two were really, really good, as I said, in 2019. So I think you can feel comfortable about them, especially in PPR formats. He's going to give McLaurin his looks. So as long as they can connect for a couple, find the end zone, that's going to be a pretty advantageous game here against the Seattle defense. But if it's standard league, I can see you flexing Wilson if Mostert doesn't play. But I think ultimately it's McLaurin over Wilson for me unless Mostert does not play in standard leagues. Aaron Jones or Cam Akers this week? That's a great question, Andrew. I think that Cam Akers certainly lately has been showing us that he might be the top option here, but I think it's a really tough choice to sit down Aaron Jones and a guy who I have in my top 5 to 6 running back list for the rest of the season. I mean, Jones, the thing I've talked about with Aaron Jones is the one thing he's seen a regression in since 2019 is that touchdown production. This season, he has 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns total on the season. And in 2019, I believe he had like 19 or 20 total touchdowns. So we've seen that number chopped in half. And right now, Akers has found the end zone twice in the last 3 weeks and having some really nice yardage games. Against the Jets this week, I think he has another good opportunity. But in the same hand, Jones has a good matchup against the Panthers. So I could see you going for Akers this week. I would probably not have too much of an issue if you did that. If DJ Moore plays, do I play him over Corey Davis, or should I just keep Davis? I think both are a bit risky because we don't know how much volume Corey Davis is going to see, but DJ Moore coming off the COVID list in his first game, potentially being shadowed by Jair Alexander, I think that might be a tough situation. So maybe stick with Davis on that one. I really like DJ Moore, but a little bit risky. Brady lost Dak, OBJ, and CMC, and he says I helped him out, and he's still in first place in his league. Brady, man, that's pretty dang impressive. The fact that you were able to stay as the top dog in your league, losing those 3 key guys in your lineups. I mean, that speaks to what you've done with your team as well. So I'm glad I was able to help you out, but clearly something was going good for you there. Should I start Hawkinson still? Matt Stafford, I think, really likes TJ Hawkinson, so if he doesn't play, that's a bit of an issue, but I would start Hawkinson if Stafford's on the field. Yeah, James, no problem, man. Thanks for stopping by the stream. Thank you for all the help this season. Yeah, of course, Bryson, thanks for stopping by the stream, man. Appreciate you here on the channel. Kyler Murray or Justin Herbert in Week 15. I think I would probably still end up going with Justin Herbert, like I've been saying, as long as Keenan Allen's out there on the field. I think the Raiders have just been trash on defense lately. So against Dallas, great opportunity for him this week, and he's been playing lights out. Should I start Justin Herbert or Derek Carr? I got to go with Justin Herbert. Lots of Justin Herbert questions here. I know he's been underperforming lately, but that matchup is too good to pass on. Travis says he doesn't know why so many people are high on Eckler because the Chargers have nothing to play for. I mean, neither do the Panthers, and we might see CMC come back later on this year and play some games. I mean, it's not even like they're tanking. Like, they're trying to win games and improve Justin Herbert. They're doing a disservice to him to not put the best guys out there and help him develop. So even though this team isn't winning football games, Austin Eckler is still a guy who's getting a ton of touches, and he's going to be right up there, especially in PPR leagues. I mean, they've been competitive all season long. They're just not finishing games off. And in week 14 here, we saw him have 24 touches. So he's going to be involved. He's going to get his looks. He's going to get his numbers. The Chargers, I get, are not a good team. They're not in playoff contention, but they're still going to have fantasy relevant players. Drake or Hunt at your flex this week? I'd go with Drake just because he's in a starting role. I think you can trust him a bit more. Robbie Anderson or T.Y. Hilton? I really like T.Y. Hilton this week against the Texans. I think he has a huge upside. How high do I think Corey Davis is this week? I know he didn't do good last week, but he might be good against the Lions. I think Davis, week in and week out, has a pretty high ceiling but a pretty low floor. He's a bit of a risky play, but it's kind of a week-to-week thing. It honestly depends on how well A.J. Brown ends up playing, because if A.J. Brown is able to produce, then we don't see Davis get the ball quite as much. But only going to stream for a couple more minutes here, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll answer as many questions as I can here before I head out. Thanks, Reflect. I see you just chatted me again and made another donation. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you. You tweeted me your matchup this week and want to know about any changes. As soon as I turn the camera off here, I'll go take a look at that. Thank you so much, man, for donating twice here on the stream. Now I got to scroll back up and try and find the questions I was answering here and just fire off some rapid ones here. So I'm going to be wrapping things up around 1:45. Godwin or Anderson this week? I think I'll go Godwin against the Falcons. Great matchup there. Do you start Montgomery or Akers? I love both of these guys, but I think I'll go Akers against a Jets team that has a very bad offense, very bad team. I think they're going to have a lot of opportunity to run that game out. Corey Davis scares me. Yeah, he does for me as well. I think he's got a high ceiling, like I said, but a little bit too of a risky dice roll for me. Is Mixon coming back? I don't know if Joe Mixon will come back this year. I know the Bengals said that if he is able to, they intend on bringing him back to that football team. But I don't know if Joe Mixon will actually be on the field again this season. Yeah, I just looked up Joe Mixon. Nothing new on his injury to suggest that he would be. Ayuk, Jefferson, or Woods, which two should I start? I think I'd go with Ayuk and Woods here. I think you pair a nice floor playing Woods with a super high ceiling in Ayuk. I really like Jefferson, but coming off a bad game last week, I'd be a little bit more hesitant. He had a lot of yards against Chicago last time, but that's a pretty tough defense sometimes. So Mahomes or Herbert? I think you got to go with Patrick Mahomes. Even though it's against the Saints, we can definitely see him continue to produce against tough matchups. Herbert's a great option this week, though. Do you go with Cooper against the 49ers or T.Y. against the Texans? I think both of these are high-risk, high-reward situations. Obviously, Dallas banged up, so Cooper going to have his down games. T.Y. Hilton's been on fire lately, and then a really great matchup. I might go with him against the Texans. Philly plays Dallas. Arizona plays Philly. Miami plays Raiders. Houston. Trying to decide who to play Week 16. Could you rank them? Because I'm trying to open up roster space. Yeah, I think ultimately you want to get rid of Houston. Miami is probably the team I'd end up starting in that game, and Philly might be worth keeping around, but I'd get rid of Arizona and Houston. Herbert or Hurts this week? I'm going to go Herbert if Allen plays at wide receiver, and Hurts if he doesn't. Obviously a short turnaround here, so there is a chance we could see the Chargers without Allen. Judy against Buffalo, Mims against the Rams, or Keelan Cole against the Ravens. I think I will go... Ooh, this is a tough one. Not great matchups here, Colton. Honestly, I think maybe Keelan Cole against the Ravens. We've seen him and Minshew have some connection this season, and with the Ravens secondary being banged up, that might be a decent stream. Eckler, Ridley, or McLaurin in your flex. I'm going to go with Austin Eckler against the Raiders if he's able to play this week. Start two, Mike Davis, Cam Akers, Jeff Wilson. I go Mike Davis and Akers there. Daniel, I think that CMC is doubtful right now, and Akers has a really great ceiling. Davis. Oh, yep. Okay, someone else is just answering a question. What's up, Janice? Needs someone in your flex. You've got Zeke, CH, Rashad Higgins. Keep up the hard work. Love it. Thanks so much, man. Thanks for stopping by the stream here, getting things wrapped up. But I can certainly help you out here with your flex play. I think this week I'm not in love with Zeke or CEH. I think that's a tough matchup. What did Rashad Higgins do against the Ravens for his exact stat line? He had 6 for 68 and a touchdown. And again this week, the Browns are playing the Giants. This is something I probably wasn't expecting to ever say this season, but Rashad Higgins might be the best option for your lineup there. Ayuk, Thielen, or T.Y. pick two. I'm going to have to go probably with Ayuk and T.Y. Hilton. Adam Thielen played really good against the Bears last time out, but he was touchdown dependent. He had 2 touchdowns and I believe only 40 yards, just a hair over that maybe. So that's what I think there. Akers or Swift this week? I'm going to go with Cam Akers. We know he's got that job unlocked for right now if he's healthy. I have to choose between Herbert and Tannehill. I have both Keenan Allen and A.J. Brown. I'd start Herbert. I think that Allen and Brown are both startable players this week in great matchups with high upside. Both of them are in my top 10. You've got Parker, Crowder. Should I drop any of them or pick up Patrick, Gage, Higgins, or Bourne in a standard league? I think, honestly, you could go out there and start Higgins. Patrick's decent, but he's a bit streaky. I think Rashard Higgins might be your best lineup there. James Robinson or David Montgomery this week against the Ravens. If the Ravens blow out the Jags, then I think David Montgomery is the better option because that'll be a close football game. But it's kind of rolling the dice there on that one. Both our great players have had decent seasons here. I think that you kind of just trust James Robinson to get back on track this week. Gronk or Mark Andrews, I think that you got to go with Mark Andrews. He's a top 3 tight end for me the rest of the season. And Gronk had 1 catch last week, albeit for a touchdown. James Robinson or David Johnson, same question. I think I'd go with James Robinson. Just trust him to get back on track. Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, or Jared Goff. I think you got to trust Kyler to keep up the good work from last week. Start 3 in PPR, Amari Cooper, Robbie Anderson, Corey Davis, Deontay Johnson. I'm going to have to go with Robbie, Deontay, and Amari, with Corey Davis being the odd man out. Tannehill or Watson this week, full PPR. You've got Derrick Henry, so would him and Tannehill take points from each other? If not, because the other can go off. I think Tannehill and Derrick Henry actually have a really nice hand-in-hand relationship in fantasy. I think Derrick Henry, the ground and pound game, sets up play action, and Tannehill finds A.J. Brown and Corey Davis wide open for touchdowns. So I think you go that way this week, especially with Watson having some turnovers against the Colts last time. He had a lot of yards, but did not find the end zone. Obviously, Deshaun's a great talent, but the wide receivers are not looking good for him right now. Start 2 PPR, only 3 more minutes here, and then I'm going to wrap things up. Miles Sanders, Mike Davis, Cam Akers. I think I'd end up going with Mike Davis and Cam Akers. We know we can trust both of those guys in starting roles. You helped me make the right move 2 weeks ago with Taysom versus Kyler. What about Kyler or Taysom this week? I think you go back to Kyler now, Duncan. I think that Taysom Hill is a good start this week against the Chiefs. They're going to have to score points to keep up. But I think Kyler is proving that he can still be fantasy relevant here, even with that injury. Wilson or Antonio Brown, you got to go with Wilson this week. AB has not been as fantastic as I think a lot of people expected. Big Ben, Jalen Hurts, Jared Goff, big money league. All right. I think you go Hurts this week. I like Big Ben against the Bengals, but I think Jalen Hurts, I think that Cardinals game will be high scoring, highly competitive, and I think he'll have some nice value on the ground. So Hurts should be able to get on track, have a really great game again. Answering a few more here. Nelson Aguilar, DJ Moore, Christian Kirk this week. I think there's definitely a world out there where Nelson Aguilar can have a high ceiling. He's a boom-bust player, but I think that's where I'd go with that, G-Man. Sanders, Mostert, or Wilson if Wilson doesn't play, Mostert doesn't play. I'd go probably Sanders on this one. I think Miles Sanders is your best option there. Monty Sanders or Akers. I think I'd go Akers. I love his ceiling, Peter. He's a great play this week. Start 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, 1 flex, full PPR, Swift, Akers, Sanders, MT, and Jefferson. I think I'm going to go Akers at your first running back spot, Thomas at your wide receiver 1, and maybe flex Jefferson with the possibility of putting Sanders in there instead. Just a question, any chance you do team reviews and start sits? Yeah, so this offseason, I'm probably not going to get exactly into just team stuff here this season, but this offseason, after free agency, I'll be doing a team-by-team breakdown of the fantasy forecast, if you will, going into the 2021 season for every single team, talking about departures, people coming in from the draft and free agency, and how I think that'll affect touches, targets, and opportunity in offenses. So that's definitely something I'll be getting into. Kyler or Herbert this week, I think that's a tough one. It can really go either way. I think it's Herbert if Allen plays, like I've been saying a lot, but Kyler if he does not. 2 more questions here. Gaskin or Akers? I think I'd go Akers because we don't know if we're going to see Gaskin this week, and Akers has a great ceiling this week. Antonio Brown, Deontay Johnson, Corey Davis, Kiki QT. I'm going to go with Deontay Johnson against the Bengals. And Aaron Jones or Chubb in full PPR. I got to go with Nick Chubb. So, that, guys, we're out of time. I got to get going here. Thank you guys so much for stopping by the stream today. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys for coming on out here, asking your questions and whatnot. I'm hoping to get in another one of these for you guys this week, but I will certainly be answering questions and comments on videos. So if you guys want to stick around for that, ask some questions, feel free to do so. I won't get back to them right away, but I will get back to you guys at some point if I'm able to find them. So thanks again, you guys. I'll see you later. Peace out.